Hey babes, Fairy Rave Godmother here, pulling up with some of that good information that you didn't know you needed but is oh so perfect now. What's going on inside? Well, maybe some emotionality. We had a Cancer new moon on June 25th, 2025, so last week. And that is an opening, an invitation, a portal into Cancer season where emotionality might be heightened, where themes of care and nurture are there in the field. You plant your seed, you plant your intention as you wish. But it's a little bit more than that, right? I'm not here to necessarily talk about the new moon. Check out the other video for that. What I want to talk about is Mercury, okay? Mercury, that itty bitty little planet closest to the sun, getting cooked all the time, right? Mercury is the planet of communication, messages, the way that your mind works, logic function. Mercury, as the closest to the sun, also sort of starts to map the circuitry of communication as energy from the sun hits Mercury first. It is laying down the groundwork for communication. But Mercury itself has had a couple of, little love bumps for some big outer planets. So Mercury is an inner planet because it's the inner portion of the solar system. Inner planets are Mercury, Venus, Earth, and the moon. You want to call the moon a planet, and Mars. And outer planets are at a farther distance, longer orbits. Some folks will say have less of an individual effect or an effect on the individual, more of a collective type thing. And that's actually what I want to kind of bust up. I want to rethink that distinction for a couple of reasons. What I practice, or what I teach, is a point of view that, yes, it's a transpersonal point of view. There are things beyond us that affect our inner life and our well-being. There is an unseen layer, an invisible world, an energetic world, more than just the meat suit. And that's what I want to say for this explanation here. And within that bubble of transpersonal thinking, a more granular exploration is, okay, but how does the psychological affect a person? How does a person's spiritual journey affect them? How does the social factors, how do the social factors that a person lives within, how does that affect their mental health? So psycho, spiritual, social sort of point of view is what I'm bringing, and making connections between ideas that maybe weren't always put together, between lived experience and theory, because we are not these ideas. I mean, I could talk all day about astrological mumbo jumbo, but at the end of the day, what is it for you? That's the most important thing. So in this week, or within the past few days, looking at astrology as a map, seeing, okay, this energy is here, and you can think, oh, do I want to go there? This energy is over here. Oh, but this energy had a conjunction with phenomena, and this energy is trying this whatever phenomena. How do I work within this cocktail of energies? The inner compass comes from you. Comes from the intuition and also conscious action. The intention, the drive, which is also Mars, or associated with Mars. So I guess I mentioned that because Mars is in Virgo. cleaning up the way you discern yourself throughout the world. Energy, man. It's all a little cocktail. You get a little flavor of that. But Mercury. Okay, so Mercury is doing its thing and recently made a couple of aspects that infused the energy, the wave that Mercury is bringing. And I'd like for you to consider them. So recently, Mercury made a trine with Neptune in Aries. Also made a trine with Saturn in Aries. These big ideas of big, right? So Aries is that area of time space that is bold, that is initiatory, that spark of life. Neptune in Aries is bringing the rose-colored glasses to the process of destruction and creation, and then what gets destroyed gets created again in another form. And Saturn in Aries is like, oof, the structure and the limit that an incarnation, that a lifetime has. In Aries creates this epic, Staffellauf, passing it back and forth. Like, oh, first we're going to grow and then we're going to pull back, and then we're going to grow and then we're going to pull back. So those are the outer planets, the energy that they're bringing. And then Mercury was like, bumpy knucks. Planets don't have knuckles. Anyway, Mercury made those contacts, those trines. And then Mercury met the moon in Cancer as a conjunction. And then was also conjunct the moon as both the moon and Mercury moved into Leo on the 27th of June. So where all of this is going is I want to bring awareness to our awareness of our inner life. And that's a Mercury thing. A reflection, being in contact with how you interact with the world and how you reflect. Maybe that is a journaling practice, or maybe that's a movement practice after which you can notice a shift in your experience and in your being. Maybe you have a regular self-care ting, and you can hold yourself accountable to knowing how your being and experience fluctuates and changes throughout the day. And that's all cool, right? But I'm also feeling into the space where Leo, in the bright, boisterous, authenticity, me sort of fashion. Well, I'm gonna just say it. Mercury in Leo is a great time for autofiction. So sometimes when we're on our journey of reflection, self-care, again, whether it's just trying to deal with something or it's part of our usual care practice, that we come up into those situations where coulda, woulda, shoulda, wished it wasn't like the way it was. So you start to struggle a bit inside. Maybe some things go awry inside, but you still got to get up and get out and put yourself out there on the collective stage. And to be fair, there's a whole lot of ick running through that collective right now. Look, I'm beaming at y'all out of California in the US. Time on Earth right now is an intense one. So for those who aren't self-aware and maybe aren't doing the work and just don't realize how much their action or inaction or whatever affect other people. And it's kind of like you're picking up on that wave. And I've heard so many people say, like, what's going on? The energy is so weird right now. Well, yeah, there's a whole lot of upheaval internally that we don't even have insight into, because the universe does its own thing, and we're just here on like this part of the food chain and like what the universe is doing and how things are unfolding. And yeah, we are in it, and we have to keep being in it. And we mask, and that looks like acting a certain way or performing a certain way in order to not disclose what's actually going on inside, in order to just get by in the social collective. And I'm gonna straight up say it's not all that bad. You know, I think somebody can be more perturbed individually when they realize, man, I wasn't acting myself and I wish I would have spoke up. But you know what? Sometimes you got to put the mask on, because the people who are around you aren't able to receive something that is not just raw, emotional, whatever, just true. And for what, right? The pursuit of truth and individual truth over something else. It's just so individualistic, right? And it's a feedback loop. So when Mercury loaded up with these contacts recently to Saturn and to Neptune, I think there is, especially within this Mercury placement, 2 months in Leo, but Mercury is going to go retrograde in the middle of July as well. So whatever is coming up, and also came up around the new moon, be with it. Just know what you want. Know what story you're going to tell yourself. And also tell yourselves the stories that aren't categorically true, just so that you can have the emotional and the intellectual, the mental experience that you need to have. And this is why I brought up autofiction. Autofiction is so my jam. I love it in a self-care practice. Autofiction is a form of writing where you essentially, you write as yourself, first person I, right? Like a memoir, you're telling a story of your life. And the way that I apply autofiction, and I teach my students, is as a real tool, as part of that dose of medicine that you give yourself, that words are. So if you were to sit down and do some writing, maybe it was your day to do some reflection, to know how you're feeling and to know how your being, how your soul is experiencing something, right? You just kind of capture that. Oh, I feel tired. Oh, actually, I didn't realize I was actually mad. And oh, you know, when I worked with my body a little more, a lot of emotions started to bubble up and I didn't realize that. Well, then what do you need? What do you need? Do you need to see a situation play out to give you the emotional validation? Okay, write it down. And I don't want to hear that writing is not therapeutic. I also don't want to hear I can't write, I'm not a writer, I can't do autofiction, because you can. You talk to yourself, right? You talk to other people. So maybe you talk to yourself in a mirror and you tell yourself the version of whatever story that happened, whatever event that happened. You tell a story in a way that serves you. Maybe you have something coming up. Maybe you're waiting to hear back from a job. Maybe you're waiting to have that conversation with someone, right? And you're playing it over and over in your mind, and you're saying, oh, I'm so anxious about it, right? Okay, that's a little Mercury going blah, 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 overdrive. Too many thoughts, right? Okay, well, Maybe you want to envision the thing happening, kind of pre-gaming with imagination, right? Envision the thing happening and yourself getting through it. Envision it happening in a way that allows you an opportunity to really be there. Note the details, man, you know? Again, make it up. Make it up. And then tell yourself the story of that experience in a way that benefits you. Here you are not masking your reaction. You're not masking behavior. You're telling truth as it is for you. And the whole world's a stage. So if this version of truth needs to be let go and it was just a performance to explore, okay, cool. If being in that role of authenticity that's really kind of not authentic because it's not really real, well, you know what? If that gives you what it needs, then be with it. Mercury in Leo, all about the autofiction, all about tapping into yourself so your inner experience is stronger when you then interact with others on the outer stage. So you can then also know how to better handle collective energy as it flows through all of us in waves. And it's also about bringing in the boundaries so you know that as an individuating person, as a person who is on the journey to self-realization, just discovering who you are, okay? Recovering who you are. That journey is for us, for the individual. That journey is also for the collective. So that shapes how en masse our attitude toward one another are, our ability to feel empathy, and it also just show up and love one another, whether or not we agree with their stories or not. You see how the cocktail, the energetics come together? If you don't, DM me. We'll talk about it. I want you to play with the authenticity of consciously and with self-awareness being inauthentic and wearing a mask. And then when it's your time to shine, maybe in your bedroom, maybe in your happier, safe space, then really go in and tell the story. Imagine yourself a character in your story. Imagine yourself on a stage and live the story in the mental reel, in the scenes in your head, the mixture of memories and trauma and media and rapid thoughts. Live it in your head. Write it down, speak it out, and then let it go. Because this process will help you come closer to your being, your soul, by dealing with all this swirly Mercury-ness. Big love, babes. You're great. Just here and now, as you are, you're great.